Well, good evening. My name's Gord Price, Director of the City Program, long-time, well, I'm going to say lover of New York. That's a bit much. Because New York is a city that provokes a whole bunch of emotions. I remember when I first started visiting there, actually around the late 70s. Anyone knew New York in the late 70s? Scary city. It was tough, actually, figuring out where to get off the subway, because the insides as well as the outsides were completely covered in graffiti. There were large parts of the city that, for someone like me, that was just no-go. You just didn't imagine going into parts of the Lower East Side, Alphabet City, and above a Upper West Side at a certain street. And if you had to predict the future of New York City, even that headline, Drop Dead, probably didn't quite do it. It was just watching the decline and fall of an empire. And it was like dancing on the edge. Now, it was a vital, exciting place, and I was awfully glad I had a chance to experience it. But under no circumstances would I ever have guessed that going back to New York City just a few months ago, that it would be the place it is today. If there is any place in North America that deserves the title of resilience, it's New York, the resilient city. So no matter how big the challenges, this is a lesson I took away, no matter how bad things look, no matter how dark the future, it looks as though, with enough creativity and energy, leadership, inspiration, and yes, money, cities come back. And they come back faster and in ways that you could never imagine. It's a living, breathing example of that. So for us to be part of a larger program here in this convention center called the Resilient City, this is appropriate as it gets. And even more delicious is that if I had to choose a guy who has made these gaining ground conferences possible through sheer persistence, it's a guy who was born and bred in New York City, in Manhattan. Gene Miller, where are you? Gene, thank you. This is your conference to a great extent. I know you would give a lot of credit to others, but I'm giving it to you tonight. So this is the reason we're here in this place tonight as part of the Shifting Gears series. I'm going to do the plug right away and get that over with, the last for this year of the Shifting Gears series with Elise Parker. We're learning from New York tonight. We'll be learning from Toronto on November the 26th. It will be at UBC in Robson Square. And as you can see, it's so important to register ahead of time. That, again, we think will be another time when we will regrettably have to turn people away. So that's my pitch for you. And I'm only going to do one other thing before I introduce the person who will introduce our speaker, and that's to give credit to our longtime funders. As you can imagine, and everyone's experiencing this in these times, we are so grateful to have the endowment that we do from the Real Estate Foundation and the Loan Foundation. They've been meeting here as well today. Again, our thanks. That makes this program possible and allows these sessions to be free, at least in part, because we have other funders too, and I really want to give special recognition to them tonight. We are very much appreciative of the fact that the inspiration for this series seems to have hit just the public mood at the right time. And the Bombardier Chair at UBC, Larry Frank, has really been the inspiration for the initial Shifting Gears series. I know he's going to give credit to the Bombardier Foundation. I want to give credit to the Active Transportation Lab and Professor Larry Frank, who has been our team partner right from the beginning. But we've been joined this, yes, please, by all means. Thanks, Art. And where's Kara? I know Kara's here too. She's joined us as a representative of the BC Recreation and Parks Association because their mandate is likewise to look at this question around transportation and health, which is the theme of Shifting Gears for this series, and to bring their support to it as well. And we appreciate that far beyond the dollars that are involved. Kara's been great to work with. Thank you. Thank you. And there's two other people I really want to thank tonight because you can imagine the logistics of handling this kind of thing, in addition to another conference that we had to do today, really puts a lot of drain on our staff. And they have performed great. So I think they're hiding in the back there, but why don't we give a round of applause to Susan Tam and Frank Pacella. Thank you, guys. I know you can hear me. That's great. Well, we have a few people I'd like to introduce, always the decision makers. I see Cindy Chan-Piper right down here in the second to front row. Cindy, stand up, please. TransLink Board Director. I know we got one elected person here. Gosh, I wish we had more. So thank you, Suzanne Anton, for showing up. Second time today. I have a particular affection for past counselors as well. I know I saw Peter Ladner here. Hey, Peter, we got to get together and form a group. Any other elected person here? Okay, I'm going to stop there before I start introducing staff, and then where would it end? All right. Well, all I have to do now is actually introduce Larry Frank, who's going to introduce our speaker. I've seen the presentation already. It's terrific. But what's best of all is the question and answer, which, of course, you're all going to be part of. So something to look forward to. Larry, your turn.
Thank you, Gordon. I really want to thank the City program. We've been working together for about 2.5 years now on these lectures and many other things, and I feel very fortunate to have Gordon and Frank here doing what they do. I also want to mention that I grew up in upstate New York, and you asked the question about the fear of New York in the 70s, and I remember very much growing up with parents whom you know, who are very patriotic. New York, when you're from New York State, it doesn't matter if you're from New York City or anywhere in the state, you really think it's the best place in the world. And I think we do here in Vancouver. I mean, in a way, we have that same feeling. But in New York, it's like, but we had Frank Sinatra singing about it, and maybe that made it a little bit more romantic somehow. Jeanette Sadik-Khan was appointed Commissioner of New York City Transportation, Department of Transportation in April of 2007. And I want to say it's a real honor to introduce Jeanette tonight because I think that she has implemented and really carried forward a lot of the ideals and things that we talk about doing here in a very, very practical and very thoughtful way. And I think we're going to see a lot of that this evening. And it really gives us inspiration just looking at her work and the way that she's managed to very quickly, I think, really transform the landscape in New York and making it much more what we would call sustainable. And I think it's really a commendable work that you've done. Commissioner Sadik-Khan is internationally recognized for her expertise in transportation issues, public policy development, and innovative finance, something that we certainly could use a lot of. Knowledge gained in over 18 years of experience with the federal, local, and private sector, so multiple levels of government. Since becoming commissioner, she has embarked on an aggressive agenda to improve air quality, mobility, and public space. Commissioner Sadik-Khan pioneered the development of a strategic business plan to bring all departmental operations and planning in line with sustainable plans of New York, so working cross-agency in New York, recognizing that transportation in New York and elsewhere is as much about quality of life as about getting around. The Commissioner Jeanette has looked to cities around the world for inspiration and initiated the development of a public realm strategy. During dinner this evening, we talked a lot about things that I think Jeanette has learned from perhaps Vancouver. There are many things that we do quite well here. Prior to her appointment as commissioner, Jeanette has a very interesting background, has worked in a number of different levels of government, but she was senior vice president of Parsons Brinckerhoff. For those of you who know, I think that is the largest transportation consulting firm on the planet, if I'm not mistaken, and is a leading international engine as a firm. That firm is a leading in many areas of innovation. Previously, Jeanette was deputy administrator at the Federal Transit Administration in the United States, managing the capital, construction, and budget, responsible for a number of different programs looking at innovative finance and opportunities to really kind of flex money out of automobile investments into other modes, things that we're trying to learn about doing here. I think the U.S. and Canada have a lot to learn from each other. So with that, I have the distinct honor of welcoming Jeanette to the stage, and thank you very much for coming to Vancouver.